literally when I finished writing the poem, like I cried, man. Like I cried. I called it, and it was really interesting because the first person I called after I wrote the poem was my mom. Cause like if anybody understands, it's my mom. Like my mom and I, like we paralleled, you know, in our paths through different struggles and darkness and addictions. Like, you know, she was dealing with her own stuff at one time. At the same time, I was dealing with, you know, other issues. And it was crazy because it's like we both saw each other. We both, every day, you know, live in one room across from one another in the same house. And we knew we were struggling, you know. We would kind of not motivate, but encourage, you know, just lifestyle partying, you know what I mean? And when you're in addiction, when you're addicted to something, you don't see you're addicted to it. You're just having a good time partying, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it's about. So you don't see how deep you are in it. Sometimes when I hear people have gone one day sober, just the fact they say, man, I've been one day sober. Like, it's not the fact that they're saying, oh, I'm one day sober, but I know where they're coming from when they're saying that. It's a statement. It's more than just like the action, you know, it's a statement like, I am on a path, on a journey, committed to freedom, to experiencing freedom and deliverance. So when I called my mom and I shared this poem with her, she was just like, wow, mijo, like, wow, like you captured the words to like our struggle, you know? The piece in itself deals with not only like just pointing out addictions and being like, man, like, you know, you suck, you know, you're addicted to pornography, you're addicted to sex, you're addicted to, you know, coke or whatever. It's like, what does God say about that? Where is God at in that, you know? I think one of the powers of coming out of addiction, one of the things that you know, the catalyst to that is despair. You have no hope. And you think God's going to be like, man, you poor little sinner, you dirty, filthy. No, man. No. Is God in that instance, God in those situations is like fighting for us. He's like, if they could only see me, if they could only see my face, if they could only know that like I'm fighting for them, that I'm the one bringing them out, that even though they fall, man, I'm still there, like continue fighting, continue, you know, pressing on, you know, if they only see that. So my point, my intention in the poem is to, by God's grace, man, like my hope is that people sense God. People, they catch a glimpse of God's character. You know, if they're Christians battling with pornography, if you know they're people, you know, trying to you know, kick alcohol, you know, or cigarette smoking, you know, even anger, rage, you know, those can be addictions. Those can be something that just you know, grips your soul that you just can't get free of. How does God look at me? You know, what are his thoughts towards me? That, man, God loves you, man. He sent his son, that like he allowed his son to be massacred, you know what I mean? To be tortured on a cross. He turned his face away from his son on the cross so that he can turn his face upon you. That God is a God of addicts, you know, that he loves them and he loves us, and you know, so I don't know, man. There's so much I can say. I'm just thinking like, man, like, I just hope that people like really hear God. They get a reflection of him, you know, in the midst of it, and really get touched, man, by his spirit and his presence. Like, that is my absolute dying desire, you know, to reach out to people like myself, to reach out to people like my mom, you know what I mean, who were in those depths of despair, but now are living in hope, you know, and living in joy. Like, you know, their face even looks different, you know what I mean, because they have life in them, you know. And even though we're not free, completely free from the struggle, because we live in a fallen world and we have fallen nature, we can live in hope and victory and freedom, you know what I mean. Not freedom from, obviously, you know, temptations and trials, but, you know, freedom in the power of God and his love and hope and faith. So.